That's right, folks. Another episode of the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Bobby LaMarco, and we're here to overreact to 10 things that happened this weekend. We're not going to do what everyone thinks we're going to do and overreact, right? We're going to underreact. We're going to be calm, rational people. I got two great hosts coming on. And then we got to talk about Aaron Rodgers going down. Pro Football Doc leaks it out that it's a potential Achilles injury, a season ender, folks. What does that mean for the Jets? Let's get into it. Top 10 overreactions to week one, starting right now on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. All right, bringing on my first guest for today. It's Gladys L. Tyler.
I want to overreact.
I want to freak out.
I want to freak out. All that time.
I've already rage dropped Christian Kirk. You want one catch for 9 yards? You're out of here.
You're out.
Done. Not going to deal with it. All right. Anyway, but today's show we're here to not overreact, Gladys. But let's talk about some reactions. So let's talk about that Jets injury here. We have Aaron Rodgers. Pro Football Doc plants the seed that could be a season ender. What's your first reactions to this injury?
Ryan Clark tweeted out that it's a broken ankle.
Well, the X-ray came back and they said no. It's good. So they would see that.
Are you calling my boy Ryan Clark a liar? Now I'm going to overreact.
Unfortunately, this is really weird because I kind of did. And I didn't mean to. Sorry, Mr. Clark. My apologies. But I guess it's kind of safe to assume that it's probably going to shift back to what we saw last year, lean on the running game more. What does this mean for Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard seems useless now. All the deep Tyler Conklin tight end stashes. I'm sorry. But any quick thoughts before we bring on our other host?
No, I'm happy that Jamie is here because he keeps me from overreacting. Bobby,
thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it because I'm making Gladys amped up right now.
Exactly.
She's ready to overreact and freak out. Let's bring in a calm mind. Our steady hand here at Razzball.com. It's Derek Favret. You can follow him at Derek_Favret on Twitter. What's going on, Derek?
Oh, good. I am the mark of cool tonight. No worries, no stress. It's only week one. Everything's good.
So basically on today's show, we're here to talk about some of the big stuff that happened. And of course, the biggest thing that happened just a minute ago. Derek, your first thoughts about the Aaron Rodgers potential season-ending injury?
Well, I heard what Gladys said. I broke my ankle and they took x-rays. They didn't see it for 3 days. And then the fourth day, they saw the broken ankle. So I'm with Gladys. I think that might be a broken ankle. The way he was moving around afterwards didn't look like an Achilles to me. It looked like more of an ankle, like a third-degree ankle sprain or even a fracture. So I'm with Gladys on this one.
All right. Listen, we'll find out. On the fourth day, it sounded like it was like a biblical term. On the fourth day, they found the broken ankle.
So it is biblical.
All right. Well, sorry. And honestly, I'm from New Jersey, as you can see from the jerseys, all pun intended. That I am a Giants fan, gratefully. But Jets fans out there, I am so sorry. At this point, it's not even fun anymore. I actually don't love it at all. But let's get into some of our top 10 overreactions. And today we're going to kind of talk about what happened in week one. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the concerning quarterback play in week one as well. Gladys, you have a question?
No, I want to say Puka from Matthew.
We're going to get there. We are getting there.
He wants it now. He wants it now.
Matthew Styles, if he wants things, he could be on the show like everyone else. All right? So, Matt, you need to calm down. All right. So, the first one is some of these bad quarterback plays this week. Obviously, Joe Burrow completely gets stifled by the Cleveland Browns, which, I mean, at this point, what are we even doing here? Daniel Jones, that game, by the way, 40-0. I felt like I was in the rain. I was in my house in another state, and I felt like I was in the rain watching that game. And the last one is Geno Smith, after a big season last year, disappoints against a Rams team that we thought wasn't going to be really great. But first thoughts, Derek, why do you want to talk about the concerns here for these quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to stress about Joe Burrow and Danny Dimes throwing pennies out there last night. I mean, that's going to be the classic overreact. I'm going to preach calm with those two. They both had bad games, probably the worst games of their careers. It's all uphill from here. Don't worry about it. Don't stress. If you're looking to buy quarterback, buy low on one of these two. I'm actually a little more worried about Geno Smith. I mean, he was just very pedestrian against the Rams yesterday, 84.1 quarterback rating. he had all that helium in fantasy drafts. I actually think that balloon is kind of deflating. So I'm actually, if I'm going to have a little worry of these three, it's going to be Geno Smith, not Joe Burrow or Daniel Jones. Gladys, what do you think?
I agree. And mostly Joe Burrow never plays well against Cleveland. Like, Cleveland owns Joe Burrow. So I'm not even worried about that. Last year, he started 0-2. The year before, he started 0-2. And he just doesn't play well against Cleveland. Calm down on Joe Burrow. Geno Smith that offense had 12 total yards in the second half. I'm very worried. Like, have you seen the clip where Aaron Donald comes after him and he screams like a girl? It's like the best thing ever. He's like, "Oh my God!" Yeah, it's the best thing ever. So I'm kind of worried about Geno. Daniel Jones, that would be my mid concern. I'm not overreacting on it. I do have him in a couple fantasies, and I'm still going to hold on to him. And I do have Joe Burrow. I'm still going to hold on to him. But Daniel Jones is running for his life. I worry more about that offensive line protecting him than I worried that Daniel Jones was
brutal.
It was brutal. He was
brutal.
Yeah. All right. And what about you, Mr. Calm, Bobby? How are you feeling up there, sir, with your Giants?
I've already lost it. Anything overreaction. I have so much Daniel Jones this year. And listen, I think the Dallas Cowboys, if you just look at the numbers last year, Daniel Jones was garbage against the Cowboys anyway. So, like, I think when you come to a relative stance, like you just brought up a good point about Joe Burrow's kind of struggles with – you actually did say this previously that Myles Garrett has Joe Burrow's number, which is ironic that it happened in this week anyway. The same thing goes for the Cowboys against Daniel Jones. If you look at his numbers last year, he averaged 228 and 196 passing yards and 1 touchdown in those 2 games. So he wasn't good last year. So I'm not surprised. It's a buy low window on Daniel Jones. Joe Burrow, he's still dealing with the calf. There's still going to be time for him to ramp up. I don't think anybody's worried about him. I guess the question comes as soon as next week, Derek, before we transition to our next topic, are you sitting these guys to see if they bounce back? Or are you putting them right back in your lineups?
No, I'm putting them right back in my lineups unless I have, either in a super flex or I have another really good option or a good matchup. I'm putting them right back in. Go right back. I mean, you drafted them for a reason. Put them in your lineup.
All right.
It's only week 1.
Let me ask you a question. A guy I've seen a lot drop in drafts is Dak Prescott. Would you start Dak over one of those 2 guys next week?
What's his matchup? Who do the Cowboys play?
Let's find out for you. That's what we do here.
Yeah, offhand.
I should have these. If I have questions, I should have like the follow-up realistic answer. Yeah, that's the Jets actually. So let's just move on.
Yes.
All right, we're moving on. All right, there we go. Number 2 is the Rams passing game is it the real deal? When I was looking at this, first off, Matthew Stafford is a talent elevator. We've talked about this for years. He comes back, and against a Seattle defense, by the way, going into this game, I think most people would have bet against the Rams passing game and for the Seattle secondary, which is not a cupcake matchup. But Stafford goes out there, balls out. Then he has Puka, Nacua, and also Tutu Atwell, who I don't want people to overlook here. Both of those guys had 119 receiving yards. Puka had 14 targets. So to me, I think it's the real deal. I think that, and the other thing is when Kupp comes back, you might be able to see Stafford finally get back to some of his 2021 numbers where he was actually fantasy relevant. Right now, I don't. I think he's just elevating mediocre talent. But the fact that he's able to do that against Seattle, I think Puka, Tutu Atwell, and I think Van Jefferson now slips behind both of them starting next week. But Gladys, what's your thoughts about these guys? Are you buying into them for their next week's matchup?
Next week's matchup against the San Francisco 49ers? No. I love Puka, though. I love Puka, but you have to realize that Seattle's defense, 0 blitzes, 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. They were not pressuring Matthew Stafford at all. I do not expect that same thing to happen next week with the 49ers. I think the 49ers might add some pressure to Matthew Stafford, and I think it might be a little different outcome than what it was this week. But as Matt Stiles says, Puka, I would still play Puka. I don't know why. Maybe so I could scream his name out. But I am not buying into the offense quite yet. What about you, my dear Derek?
No, same. I'm a buy and hold for Puka. at this point. If you're gonna grab him and chase this week's points next week against the Niners, you're gonna be sorely disappointed.
Yeah.
But buy him, hold him, and come back week 3, week 4. Let's see what that Rams offense is. Is it just a 1-week wonder against Seattle, or do they actually have something there? Buy and hold. Don't play him next week.
I'm going to say this. My call is that Tutu Atwell will be the best player for the Rams next week. The 49ers have been a slot funnel defense. Allen Robinson led the Steelers in receiving last week, 5 for 64. Of course, Deontay got hurt halfway through that game. George Pickens was basically a non-factor. So I think Tutu might be your DFS dart throw next week. Sorry, folks.
Fireman got hurt too. So they're out, Johnson and Fireman.
All right, great. Even better. Let's throw out more takeaways from today's show. All right. So let's get into Kyren Williams at running back. Listen, this one was a shocker as Cam Akers fell behind him. Let's talk quickly, Gladys. What's your thoughts about this one? I'm sorry, Derek, you go first on this one. My apologies. I know. I'm sorry. It is what it is. This is Derek's topic. He wants to talk about Gladys. I'm sorry. Anyway, Kyren Williams dominates running back touches. What's your thoughts? Is he the RB to own in Los Angeles?
Well, he's the RB to pick up this week. Even, those J.K. Dobbins owners out there who need a running back, this is where you want to look. Cam Akers was drafted as the bell cow. He's definitely not the bell cow. Kyren Williams shows that he can handle it. 15 rushes, 52 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think they make a formidable 1-2 punch. We've seen that with so many other teams where you've got someone to run through the tackles and you've got someone who's a little more dynamic. And Williams is the more dynamic of the two. So I'm not running with him every week. He's not an every week starter for me, but he's going to be a pretty good player. And especially, as more running backs fall down, you're going to want someone who can make a play. And Kyren Williams is going to be one for me. How about you, Gladys?
Cam Akers averaged 1.3 yards per carry yesterday. I do not think that is going to fly in a Sean McVay system, but I do not trust Sean McVay to trust one running back for the season. I don't. What's the question? Is he the running back to own in Los Angeles? I would, if you could have both of them, I would. I know it's like a running back by committee for me because I think Sean McVay is historically unable to choose a running back and stick with him. Hey, Bobby, what do you think? We can't hear you.
Yeah,
you know that.
Jeez. Sorry, folks. My bad. Yeah, I wanted to take a look. So PFF's grades came out for this weekend, and I wanted to see where the Seahawks run defense came in. 11th. I thought they were a little bit stronger, especially with how dominant they looked against these running backs. But the thing that bothers me the most is Kyren Williams looked good on the goal line carry, and he had a nice after contact, got through into the end zone. So my problem is like watching that. If I'm a Cam Akers owner, I am going to prioritize Kyren Williams, and I'm going to make sure he's my number one waiver, and I'm going to lock up that backfield because after what I saw Matthew Stafford do, in about 3 weeks, a guy like Cooper Kupp comes along. I want some ties to that Rams offense. So I'm willing to use it on Kyren Williams, a top waiver wire. I'm going to take a look back and say I'd pay me 15% of fab. So if I have a $100 budget, I'll go 15 to 20% on Kyren and see if I can get him. Don't know if I'd get to the 40% mark on him because, like you said, Cam Akers easily could be the lead guy next week if they play a better matchup for on the ground. Next week, the Rams have
49ers.
49ers. Yeah, that's just not fun. So no, I'm going to pass on that. Anyway, let's just say you're not playing either of those guys next week. Let's go to the next one. It's the Ravens backfield. J.K. Dobbins, of course, tears his Achilles. Justice Hill gets some work. Gus Edwards gets some work. Gladys, what's your thoughts about this backfield?
They bought up Melvin Gordon from the practice squad. They have that undrafted rookie that had all the hype that's on IR who will be back in 4 weeks. The Ravens backfield is what the Ravens backfield always is. It's Lamar Jackson and the Lamarettes. So I am not high on any of the Ravens running backs. If you have to pick up one, I would say if Gus Edwards is available, he's probably going to lead. The beat writers out of Baltimore are calling Gus Edwards the lead back. So, but again, once it gets rolling, it's going to be Lamar Jackson and the Lamarettes. So what do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I agree. Gus Edwards is the back to own here. I'm not worried about Melvin Gordon. He'll get a few carries, but I'm not worried about him cutting into that too much. And Justice Hill, he got 8 rushes, averaged 1.1 yards. Okay, he got the 2 touchdowns. People are going to see the stat line and they're going to go for him. Let him. But no, I'm if I'm going to reach for anyone in this backfield, and I do have JK in one of my lineups, so I'm going to have to try to get Gus Edwards. I'm staying away from Justice Hill.
I am going to say that Gus Edwards, let's say, for example, Gus Edwards, Kyren Williams, Kenny Gainwell are all on the waivers right now. And it's tough, because all 3 of those guys, Gus Edwards clearly is probably the one that could be stepping into the clear lead role. Kyren Williams, we don't know what the Cam Akers situation. Gainwell does seem like he's the guy based on the touches and snaps last week, which just talk about when we get to that topic, the emotions will start coming out. But anyway, long story short, if you look at Gus Edwards' career, he's played 18 games in his career with 40% of the snaps. He averages nearly exactly 10 PPR points per game. If you just bump it to 50%, it's 6 games played. He averaged 13.7 PPR points per game. So when he gets the looks, he does offer a decent floor. He's a very efficient runner. I just don't think Lamar Jackson is ever going to target his running backs at a high level. So I just think that, yeah, he's a nice maybe RB2 in good matchups and a flex in the tougher ones. All right, let's jump down to the next one. It's can Jakobi Meyers build off his 10-target performance? Derek, talk to us why you want to talk about Jakobi Meyers.
Yeah, so I watched a lot of this game. Clearly, the Raiders plan to go away from Patrick Surtain. Adams, sure, he got his targets, but they wanted to establish another option in the wide receiver, and they went after Meyers, and he delivered. 9 out of 10, 9 catches out of his 10 targets, 81 and 2 touchdowns. In fact, 15 of 20 of the 20 Jimmy G connections went to either Meyers or Adams. So he's targeting his wide receivers. I don't see how or why they should change that formula. It's just going to open up more room for Adams moving forward. So, yeah, I definitely think that Meyers is a flex option or even better moving forward. What do you think, Gladys?
I think that 10 is his ceiling. I think 10 targets is Jakobi Meyers' ceiling in that offense. He's only had more than 10 targets twice, and they were 13 targets when he was with the Patriots. I think that 10 is good. I would take 10 targets from Jakobi Meyers, so I'm not saying that that's a bad play. But I think that Devontae will start getting more looks, and I think that the Michael Mayer will start getting more looks. So I think 10 is Jakobi's ceiling for that offense, targets wise.
Which is
Bobby,
awesome, by the way. Which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said it's really good.
So here's the thing I like about this. Last season, in the 10 games that Jimmy G played the majority of the snaps with the 49ers, both Debo and Ayuk were top 24 wide receivers. So he has proven that he can go out there and produce for 2 wide receivers. Devontae's the one, but he has clearly shown that he could support 2 wide receivers that are relevant for fantasy. I think Jakobi Meyers is, and he's not a big-time rostered player. You could probably get him in some shallower leagues too off waivers, but I am buying the Jakobi Meyers hype train heading into week 2. Let's jump to the next one. The Patriots passing game continue to dominate. We just saw Mac Jones and company throw a bunch under Bill O'Brien the first game. Gladys, what's your thoughts about this one?
Mac Jones had 54 passing attempts. In 2021, he had 29.8 average passing attempts. In 2022, he had 31.9 average passing attempts. 54 passing attempts is a lot of passing attempts in that offense. I guess it depends on what you consider dominate. I think they will. There was a stat that the Patriots are 0-11 under Mac Jones if another team scores 25 points. So they're going to have to throw the ball because they're going to have to score more than 25 points if they want to erase that stat. But I don't know that 54 is going to be the magic number. I think it's going to be more like 40 passes maybe a game that he averages. So I think that the passing game will, yes, overrun the run game. Just don't expect as many passes as they had against the Eagles. But Derek.
Yeah, so next week they get Miami. If they're going to have a chance at Miami, they're going to have to throw the ball. So I like Bourne for next week. I like we just talked about Myers. I like him more long term, but if you need a wide receiver for next week, and you're a little over worried about some of the poor performances yesterday, I wouldn't look past Bourne. You can probably get him very cheap off waivers this week, and pretty good matchup. Well, I say good matchup. They're going to have to throw the ball just like yesterday, and they faced a really tough defense and they had some success. So they're going to have to do very much the same thing next week with Miami. So I'm riding Bourne another week if I have him. Bobby,
I'm all in. I'm all in on Kendrick Bourne. I'm in. I had him in my top 150 before the end of the year. Like there was a lot of noise about him heading into the season, and he just looks good. Now, there's a couple caveats. Yes, there was no Devontae Parker yesterday, and yes, they threw a league-high 58 times. Okay, that's not going to happen. But he was 22nd in fantasy points per dropback. So, yes, he won't be a wide receiver 1, but there is an avenue of even if they drop down to like that 40 dropback range, which is more realistic, that he could still put up wide receiver 2, borderline high-end wide receiver 3 numbers for a guy that is pretty much universally on waivers right now. So, I'm in. If you're at the end of your waivers and you're not going to get one of these running backs, go get some Kendrick Bourne in your life. Let's do it. I'm in. Here's the flag. Here's the plans. We're all in for 2023. All right, let's get into Sam LaPorta. Is he going to buck the trend for tight ends? This guy had a very good opening night, and now it's Thursday. Everyone forgot about Thursday. Sam LaPorta, folks. So, Derek, talk to us about Sam LaPorta. You excited about his future in 2023?
I am. Rookie tight ends don't typically have success. And, if you just look at his box score, you saw 5 targets, 5 receptions for 39 yards. So it was a pretty ho-hum performance if you just look at the box score. But if you watch that game, you saw, or I saw Mark Andrews, a younger version of Mark Andrews. Very good at finding the holes. He is very smooth in the secondary, and his hands are soft. He's a good route runner, catches the ball well. I think before long, whether it's going to be this week or next week, he's going to go off and he's going to be untouchable. So if you can find him on one of your owners, I mean, he's going to be owned. Obviously, he was drafted. So if you can find that owner, maybe he's worried about something else on his roster, and you can get Sam LaPorta, you need to do it. He's going to go off. Trust me. What do you think, Gladys?
Jake Ferguson, the Cowboys tight end, and the kid playing tonight, although who cares about tonight's game? But I think
Jets fans.
You think they do? I think they all left. I don't think
they care anymore.
Yeah, they're out.
It's raining and they're out. I like LaPorta. I think for the most part, this whole tight end class are going to buck the tight end trend. I think LaPorta will do it. I think Ferguson will do it. I think Kincaid will do it. I think Mayer will do it in Vegas. So I like all of them. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the ones. Ferguson had 7 targets last night. True, he only caught 2 of them, but they still target him, and we know that Prescott loves to target his tight end. So, yeah. Sorry, Bobby. I didn't mean to bring up last night.
No, it's fine. I mean, honestly, it's rude, but it's fine. It's America. You can say what you want. Glasses me, I have to like it though. I just can't do the rookie thing. I get it. This is just a hill I'll die on. I can't. I'm out. I just don't think it's going to happen on a consistent basis. It is what it is. I know he looked good. I know LaPorta looked good. Musgrave got a bunch of work. I don't know. There's just too much history. Kyle Pitts was good, but it was on volume. Unless Amon-Ra St. Brown gets hurt, I just don't see him being the number 1 weapon. Then you got Gibbs, and then when Jameson Williams comes back, I don't know. I just don't see it. But you know what? I support you. Always, Derek. Always, my friend. All right. Is Kenneth Gainwell the RB1 in Philly for the rest of season after he got the majority of the snaps? Gladys, what's your first reaction to this one? Are you picking up Gainwell and anger dropping Swift in all your leagues?
I do have Swift in most of my drafts. If I have a Philly, I did drop him today, but I didn't drop him from Gainwell. No, I think it's a running back by committee. Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch, which means, I think he is, he being the head coach, is just like picking and choosing who he's going to put in as his RB1. He has so many. It's not like he has like a dirt pile to choose from. He has quality running backs to choose from, like Gainwell, Swift, Penny, even Boston Scott got a look. So No, I'm not messing with that Philadelphia backfield again. Jalen Hurts. I'm not messing with him, but I understand those who do, and I applaud your what is the word I'm looking for? Hope and of things going right for you.
Misguided hope, maybe.
Misguided hope. What do you say, Derek?
I totally agree. I wasn't touching them before, and I'm still not. Nothing changed. In fact, Gainwell, sure, he got majority of the snap share. He came out of it with rib injury. So, what's to say Penny doesn't have the big share next week? He didn't even play this week. Healthy scratch, and life in the NFL, he'll be the one that gets the run next week. So no, I am not. I'm not going after any of these running backs this week. Bobby,
are you muted again, Bobby?
Yep.
I am muted again. Okay, everyone, I am muted because I'm over here just losing it. My thought process is it makes sense. This one, I have to listen to Derek. I just feel like he's reasoning in my head. Gainwell is worth. If no one picks him up, I'm gonna stash him. It's not gonna kill me to stash him, but I am not starting an Eagles running back in week 2 because, like you said, what's gonna happen on the Sunday live show, 8:30 in the morning? Oh, Rashad Penny is actually active today, and then next thing you know, he gets 15 carries. So you know what? You're right, and I agree with you on this because as I do think Gainwell is the back to own heading into week 2. If you have Swift, you don't drop him, but you can't trust him at all. So until there's clarity, these guys are bench stashes. But honestly, if you have one spot right now, it's going to be Gainwell. And that's how I feel about it. I would take Gainwell over Swift just based on what we saw, but I hate it, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. All right, moving to number 9. Should we be concerned about Jaylen Waddle? Now, Derek, you want to talk a little bit about Jaylen Waddle's week 1 because the Dolphins went off, and Waddle had a very quiet day. So talk to us a little bit why you want to talk about Waddle.
Yeah, Tua throws for 1,000 yards, and where was Waddle even on the field at all? I mean, if the Chargers game plan to take him out of the game, they succeeded. They lost the game, but they succeeded. But it was every time I watched a lot of that game, and every time I look up, it was 10 getting off the ground with the ball. What's going on?
Wild.
So yeah, looking it up, 5 targets, 4 of those 5 in the first half. I mean, he had a respectable stat line, 4 for 78. Including a 35-yarder down the middle in the first quarter. But I tell you, that was the quietest double-digit fantasy performance that I've seen in a long time. He just was disappeared. So, of course, I'm not worried about him. He'll probably have 35 fantasy points next week against New England. But it's the same old story in Miami. You want both of those receivers because you never know which one's going to go off. 50 PPR points for Hill was just unreal. And I lost one of my matchups because of that. But no, I'm not overreacting. Waddle will be just fine. And we'll move on. So Gladys, what do you think?
I concur wholeheartedly. I'm not worried about Waddle. As much as they throw, McDaniel's going to make sure Waddle gets his. I mean, there was no need for him to be included because Tyreek Hill was just vulturing everything. So no, I'm not worried about him. And what say you, Mr. Bobby?
I'm not worried about Waddle, but it is a very valid point. I think there was some people out there saying that maybe Waddle takes over Tyreek this year, and I think that's not going to happen. I think we kind of know Tyreek Hill still got a lot left. It is difficult for 2 wide receivers to finish as top 12 wide receivers. So now you know that Hill's the guy. You're probably going to see some weeks where Waddle is kind of left in the dust a little, but at least being left in the dust gets you 11 PPR points. So I'm not worried about it. I think the one caveat is Hill did dominate in the slot too. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 104 yards out of the slot. So that could really help Hill's role while Waddle plays more on the outside. So maybe that had something to do with it against the Chargers, but we'll see. But that is a good point. All right, let's go to number 10, the last one, the Commanders passing game. I know a lot of people were talking up Jahan Dotson heading into week 1, but man, did they spread around the wealth. Logan Thomas got targets. Curtis Samuel led the team in receptions, which is crazy. Terry McLaurin still banged up. Gladys, your thoughts about this Commanders passing game? Are you worried about any of those wide receivers?
I think it's bullshit. I had Dotson.
Nice.
Dotson. And yeah, he had 0 points. I'm not worried. As a fantasy person, I'm worried about it because I don't know who to pick. As if I were a Commanders fan, I would not be worried about it because that means they're good and they have so many weapons to choose from. But as a fantasy person, yeah, I'm definitely worried. Curtis Samuel led. Come on now. No one. Come on. Who? What? No. Yeah. This I'm going to overreact on because I lost like 2 leagues because Dotson did not see the ball. Yeah, I'm a little pissed. Yeah, I hate you, Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy. Yeah, it's okay, but it's all right. I'll get over it. What about you, Dirk?
No, I'm not worried because I wasn't worried about this this wide receiver room at all this year anyway. So it didn't really bother me at all to see that that breakdown.
Wait, do you mean that you don't have any
I
draft
don't.
capital? Oh, is that what you're saying?
I don't. I have no
so
draft
it's not
capital.
Personal
I wasn't sure either. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No, I stayed away from the Commanders and for many of the same reasons you just said. I mean, who do you pick? It's one of those. None of them. I mean, okay,
Dotson.
McLaurin is the number one on paper, but
Yes,
is he really? Of course, he had the toe injury, and Dotson's a good. He could easily step up, and even Samuel, he can play that third wide receiver role pretty well. So no, I didn't get excited about any of them, and I'm still not. They go to Denver next week. Does Surtain, does he take Terry out again? And if that's the case, then, what we saw yesterday, we saw Jakobi Meyers, succeed in a wide receiver 2 role. Do we see Dotson do that, or maybe it's Samuel again?
Of course we do, because I'm going to sit him next week.
Exactly. So that's the point.
Have like 20. Yeah.
No, just stay away from the Commanders wide receivers, unless you have, pick up one of these guys we talked about tonight and just bench those Commanders wide receivers until we can actually see what they are. Because right now we really don't know.
Send me notes next year when I start drafting, please.
Yeah, we just don't know what we have there. So anyway, Bobby, what do you think? Wait till they play the Giants and then you play them. What do you think, Bobby?
I think I don't like anybody right now. So Gladys is over there willing catches to Jahan Dotson spiritually while you're throwing shade at the Giants. But anyway, I was on Derek's side on this. I did say this all off season. I was like, the Sam Howell experience, I don't think there's going to be pass volume. And sure enough, they threw the ball 31 times in this game. And it's got spread around by 4. There was really 4 really prominent players. And like Antonio Gibson had 1 target. So he wasn't even involved. So it really came down to the fact that Curtis Samuel was a much bigger factor, and also Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas tied for the league with Dotson with 7 targets. Curtis Samuel tied Jahan Dotson with 5 receptions, but he also outproduced Dotson. Like Curtis Samuel had more receiving yards. So it's like Curtis Samuel's a good player. Like I think that's the problem I have. This is what happens when you have too many mouths to feed and a low pass volume offense. So I was kind of off them all off season, and I think my viewpoint has not changed. I don't think Sam Howell is going to be a value passer. I think he's Alex Smith from his days with the Chiefs. I've been saying that all off season. So I think the offense is going to be fine, but you're going to get a lot of 5 for 40s. A lot of 5 for 40s. That's how I feel about it. All right.
And real quick, Bobby, by the way, thank you both, because you both supported yesterday with my question about tight end, what I need to do with tight end, and you both recommended Logan Thomas, who I took, and
yes.
It worked out well. So yeah, great advice yesterday on the Start Sit Show.
Yes, and speaking of the Start Sit Show, make sure you join us every Sunday live for 3 hours before kickoff, as we discuss with some lovely faces like these two. We have Matt, we have Sky, myself, a bunch of us on Razzball jump on for 3 hours to answer your Start Sit questions. So jump on Razzball Fantasy every Sunday starting at 7 a.m. Who knows? Maybe 8 a.m., probably 7 a.m., but we'll be there every day for you, answer your Start Sit questions. But before we close out the show, Gladys, tell the people what you got upcoming this week on Razzball or everywhere where you rate your content.
So Razzball, I have a defenses you should attack for your fantasy pleasure. So we'll go by quarterback, wide receivers, running back, and I don't think I do tight ends because no one cares about tight ends. And then the Saturday, I have a Start Sit on Thursday with going for 2, which will tell you the people that you should start and sit on the offensive side of the ball. But it's also defensive oriented because I really do think defenses are sexy. And I really do think people should start paying attention to them a lot more. And I'm going to make them sexy. They're going to be sexy by the end of this year. Don't you worry about it, people. And then
All
Saturday.
right,
What?
I said,
What?
all right, I like it. Let's do it. Let's bring the sexy back defenses.
Bring in
all right,
sexy
it's
back.
Saturday. Go ahead. What do you got for Saturday?
I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, Saturday morning, I have just a little 43-minute podcast. Come see us on YouTube. 2-point conversion. Nope, it's not. It's no particular order. It's called In No Particular Order. Shannon and I just talk. Basically, Shannon talks shit about people, and I kind of agree with him because he's really, really smart. He's like an Instagram person, and we'll probably be on Deion Sanders again because why not? We're in Colorado. They're playing CSU in Boulder. We might go up to Boulder and do the tailgating for the podcast for 43 minutes. Although,
nice.
No, that would not be nice for anyone.
All right, Derek.
All
right, Derek. Derek, help us out here. I don't know what's going on. We're talking about Colorado college football. Derek, what do you got coming at Razzball this week?
Yeah, look for an article from me as we get dive through the numbers. I'll look at the 5 things that you need to know for week 2 of next week, or this weekend. Also, I did an article on the referees, and I'm going to dig into that a little bit more and see how the refereeing crew how they compare to last year. What type of penalties do we see? If you haven't read that article yet, go back and look at it because there's definitely some nuances with the referees. They're not all the same. They're not all made the same, and so to find that certain referees or certain crews tend to call different penalties more than others, and so I'll be tracking that this year too to see if that's something that's actually something fantasy relevant that we could take some knowledge and make some make some picks on. So look for some of my articles. Yeah, look for my articles later this week.
Love it. And make sure you go to razzball.com. We have great writers all across the board dropping great knowledge every single day. So go to razzball.com. We also have our fantasy data tab where we have our slot versus wide points per game allowed. When I tell you it's an exciting tool to use, you can actually see how many fantasy points defense is allowed to the slot and out wide. Great resources to help you pick your starting lineups every single week. And I'll also be writing a slot versus wide top matchup article every week. So go check that out on razzball.com. Once again, I'm your host, Bobby LaMarco. Thank you for joining us again. I want to thank both my co-hosts. You guys did a wonderful job. We are out of here, folks.
Bye-bye.